जय गोपी जनवल्लभ जया गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राध माधव जय कुंज विहारी जय राध माधव जय कुंज विहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राध माधव जय कुंज विहारी जय राध माधव जय कुंज विहारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राध माधव जय कुंज विहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna everyone. Today's verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam. But before we get onto that verse of Canto 4, we'll start with Srila Prabhupada's Leela Mrita. On screen. I hope you all can see the correct screen with the parts. And we'll start from here. Srila Prabhupada's new home. The Bauri had a long history. In the early 16th, when Manhattan was known as New Amsterdam and was controlled by the Dutch West India Company, Peter Menard, the governor of New Netherland, staked out a north-south road that was called the Bowery because a number of Boweries or farms lay on either side. It was a dusty country road lined with quaint Dutch cottages and bordered by the peach orchards growing in the estates of Peter Stuyvesant. It became part of the high road to Boston and was of strategic importance during the American Revolution as the only land entrance to New York City. In the early 18th, the Bowery was predominated by German immigrants. Later in the century, it became predominantly Jewish, and gradually it became the city's center of theoretical life. However, as a history of Lower Manhattan describes, after 1870, came the period of the Bowery celebrated degenerations. Fake auction rooms, saloons specializing in 5-cent whiskey and knockout drops, sensational dime museums, filthy and rat-ridden stale beer dives, together with Charles M. Her song The Bowery. I'll never go there anymore. Fixed it forever in the nation's consciousness as a place of unspeakable corruption. So the reaction of Ropa's electrician friend was not unusual. The Bowery is still known all over the world as Skid Row, a place of ruined and homeless alcoholics. Perhaps the uptown electrician had done business in the Bowery and had seen the derelicts sitting around passing a bottle or lying unconscious in the gutter or staggering up to the passers-by and drunkenly bumping into them to ask for money. Most of the Bowery 7 or 8,000 homeless men slept in lodging houses that required them to vacate their rooms during the day. Having nowhere else to go and nothing else to do, they would loiter on the street, standing silently on the sidewalks, leaning against a wall, or shuffling slowly along, alone or in groups. In cold weather, they would wear two coats and several suits of clothes at once and would sometimes warm themselves around a fire they would keep going in a city garbage can. At night, those without lodging slept on the sidewalks, doorsteps, and street corners, crowded into discarded boxes or sprawled side by side next to the bars. Thefts were commonplace. A man's pocket might be searched 10 or 20 times while he slept. The rates of hospitalization and death in the Bowery were 5 times higher than the national average, and many of the homeless men bore marks of recent injury or violence. Prabhupada's loft 94 Bowery was 6 blocks south of Houston Street. At Houston and Bowery, derelicts converged in the heavy crosstown traffic. When cars stopped for the lights, bumps would come up and watch the windshields and ask for money. South of Houston, the first blocks held mostly restaurant supply stores, lamp stores, taverns, and l- lunch notes. The buildings were of 3 and 4 stories, old, narrow, crowded tenements, their faces covered with heavy fire escapes. Traffic on the Bowery ran uptown and downtown. Cars parked on both sides of the streets, and the constant traffic passed tightly. During the business day, working people passed briskly among these slow moving derelicts. Many of the store windows were covered with protective iron gates, but behind the gates, the store owners lit their varieties of lamp to attract prospective wholesale and retail customers. 94 Bowery was just 2 doors north of Hester Street. The corner was occupied by the spacious Half Moon Tavern, which was frequented mostly by neighborhood alcoholics. Above the tavern sat a 4-story Bowery flop house marked by a neon sign, Palmer House, which was covered by a protective metal cage and hung from the second floor on large chains. The hotel's entrance at 92 Bowery, which had no lobby but only a desolate hallway covered with dirty white tiles, was no more than 6 feet from the entrance to 94. 94 Bowery was a narrow 4-story building. It had long ago been painted grey and bore the usual facing of a massive black fire escape. A well-worn black double door, its glass panels reinforced with chicken wires, open onto the street. The sign above the door wrote AIR third and fourth, indicating that artists in residence occupied those floors. The first floor of the next building north, 96 Bowery, was used for storage, and its front entrance was covered with a rusty iron gate. At 98 Bowery was another tavern, Herald, smaller and dinglier than the Half Moon. Thus, the block consisted of two saloons, a flop house, and two buildings with lofts. In the 1960s, loft living was just beginning in that area of New York City. The city had given permission for painters, musicians, sculptors, and other artists who required more space than available in most apartments to live in buildings that have been constructed as factories in the 19th century. After these abandoned factories had been fitted with fireproof doors, bathtub, shower stalls, and heating, an artist could inexpensively use a large space. These were the AIR lofts. Harvey Coven Lofts on the top floor of 94 Bowery was an open space almost 100 feet long from east to west and 25 feet wide. It received a good amount of sunlight on the east, the Bowery side, and it also had windows at the west end as well as a skylight. The exposed rafter of the ceiling were 12 feet above the floor. Harvey Cohen had used the loft of an art studio, and racks for painting still lined the walls. A kitchen and shower were partitioned off in the northwest corner, and a room divider stood about 15 feet from the Bowery side windows. This divider did not run from wall to wall but was open at both ends, and it was several feet long of the ceilings. It was behind this partition that Prabhupada had his personal living area. A bed and a few chairs stood near the windows. The Prabhupada's typewriter sat on his metal trunk next to the small table that held his stacks of Bhagavatam manuscripts. His dhotis hung drying on a clothesline. On the other side of the partition was a dais about 10 feet wide and 5 feet deep, on which Prabhupada sat during his kirtanas and lectures. The dais faced west towards the loft, large open space, open that is, except for a couple of rugs and an old fashioned solid wood table, and on an easel Harvey's painting of Lord Chaitanya dancing with his associates. I'll stop there and start with the verse. So before we start, can you go to the today's verse? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayan Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Uduriyat Nashtaprayasya Bhatresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavata Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. So today's verse is Etadrupam Anudeyam Atmasuddhim Adipsatam Yad Bhakti Yoga Bhayada Swadharmam Anutisthatam Etadrupam Anudeyam Atmasuddhim Adipsatam Yad Bhakti Yoga Bhayata Swadharmam Anutistatam Etadrupam Anudheyam Atmasuddhim Adipsatam Yad Bhakti Yoga Bhayadha Swadharmam Anutistatam. Anybody would like to recite this verse?
Hare Krishna Mataji, I am trying.
Yes, Prabhuji, please try.
Etadrupam anudheyam आत्मशुद्धिमभीप्सताम् यद्भक्तियोगोभयदः सधर्ममनुतिष्ठताम् Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. एतद्रूपम् अनुध्येयम् आत्मशुद्धिमभीप्सतम् यद्भुक्तियोगभयदः स्वधर्ममनुतिष्ठताम्. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. I am also trying.
Yes, Mataji, please try.
एतद्रूपम् अनुध्येयम् आत्मशुद्धिम् अभीप्सतम् यद्भक्तियोगभयदः सधर्मम् अनुतिष्ठतम्. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. May I try also please?
Yes, Mataji, please try.
एतत् रूपम् अनुधेयम् आत्मा शुद्धिम् अभीसताम् यत् भक्ति योगभ्याध स्वधर्ममनुतिष्ठताम्. Thank you Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. We'll go to word-to-word translation. Etat, this, rupam, form, anudheyam, must be meditated upon, atma, self, suddhim, purification, adipshatam, of those who are desiring so, yet that which, bhakti yoga, the devotional service, abhayadaha, factual fearlessness, swadharma, one's own occupational duties, anutishtatam, executing. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Translation is, my dear Lord, those who desire to purify their existence must always engage in meditation upon your lotus feet, as described above. Those who are serious about executing their occupational duties and who want freedom from fear must take to this process of Bhakti Yoga. Anybody would like to read the purport?
Yes Mataji, I can read.
Okay, thank you.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It is said that the transcendental name, form, pastimes, and entourage of the Lord cannot be appreciated by the blunt material senses. Therefore, one has to engage himself in devotional service so that the senses may be purified and one can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here, however, it is indicated that those who are constantly engaged in meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord are certainly purified of the material contamination of the senses and are thus able to see the Supreme Lord face to face. The word meditation is very popular in this age amongst the common people, but they don't know the actual meaning of meditation. However, from Vedic literature, we learn that the yogis are always absorbed in meditation upon the lotus feet of the Lord. Dhyanavasthita tad katena manasya pashyantiyam yogina. Bhagavatam 12, cantos 13 and 1 text. This is the real business of the yogis. To think of the lotus feet of the Lord. Lord Shiva, therefore, advises that one who is actually serious about purification must engage himself in this type of meditation or in the mystic yoga system, which will help him not only to see the Lord within constantly, but to see him face to face and become his associate in Vaikuntha Loka or Goloka Vrindavan. Shall I continue?
Yes, ma'am.
The word sadharmam, as in sadharmam anutishtatam, indicates that the system of varnashram, which indicates the occupational duties of the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra, and which is the perfect institution for humanity, must be supported by Bhakti Yoga if one at all wants security in life. Generally, people think that simply by executing the occupational duties of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, or the duty of a brahmachari, grihastha, vanprastha, or sannyasi, one becomes fearless or securely attains liberation. But factually, unless all these occupational duties are accompanied by Bhakti Yoga, one cannot become fearless. In Bhagavad Gita, there are descriptions of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, etc. But unless one becomes to the point of Bhakti Yoga, these other yogis cannot help one attain the highest perfection of life. In other words, Bhakti Yoga is the only means for liberation. We find this conclusion also in Chaitanya Charitamrita in a discussion between Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Rai regarding a human being's liberation from this material world. In this discussion, Ramananda Rai referred to the execution of Varnashram Dharma, and Lord Chaitanya indicated that the Varnashrama Dharma was simply external, ahobad bhaya. Lord Chaitanya wanted to impress upon Ramananda Rai that simply by executing the duties of Varnashram Dharma, one is not guaranteed liberation. Finally, Ramananda Rai referred to the process of Bhakti Yoga, Sthane Sthita Shruti Gatam Tunu Van Manovi, Bhagavatam 10:14.3. Regardless of one's condition of life, if he practices Bhakti Yoga, which begins with hearing Shruti Gatam, the transcendental message of the Lord through the mouths of devotees, he gradually conquers the unconquerable God.
Thank you.
God is known to be unconquerable, but one who submissively hears the words of a self-realized soul conquers the unconquerable. The conclusion is that if one is serious about liberation, he not only should execute the occupational duties of Varnashram Dharma, but should also engage in Bhakti Yoga by beginning hearing from a realized soul. This process will help the devotee conquer the unconquerable Supreme Personality of Godhead and become his associate after giving up the material body. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, thank you for reading such a wonderful purport by Srila Prabhupada. He has given all the explanation. Before we start, I'll go with the prayer. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सगना रघुनाथान्वितां तां सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते वेदव्यासदेव स्वामिते नाम्ने नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिते नाम्ने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So Hare Krishna everyone. So we have been seeing how Lord Shiva has been explaining the process of Bhakti Yoga. So what we see that this is a prayer by Lord Shiva, and he is the best Vaishnava, so it is the best way to hear from him and then understand who should take the process of Bhakti Yoga. So this is the later part of the Rudra Geetam that he is explaining, where he is describing the glories of Bhakti Yoga. And he says the results of meditation on the lotus feet and Krishna's form is free from fear of death and purification. So from the purport and translation, we understand that there are lots of processes, but who should take Bhakti Yoga? Why one should take Bhakti Yoga? So, if one has a desire to purify this existence, then one must always engage in the meditation of your lotus feet. Your lotus feet is Lord's lotus feet. And Lord Shiva, Prabhupada has explained in the purport that Lord Shiva therefore advises that one who is actually serious about purification must engage himself in this type of meditation or in the mystic yoga system, which will help him not only to see the Lord within constantly, but to see him face to face and become his devotee in Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavan. That is so wonderful and so inconceivable, that how you can see Lord face to face, but the process is given. It's through Bhakti Yoga. And he's explaining the secret of how to please the Supreme Lord. So one who is looking for spirituality wants to know about meditation, because only through mantra meditation, only through the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can purify the existence and can connect the soul to the super soul. So the real yogi meditates on the lotus feet of the Lord, not on some void. Because a lot of people think like, oh, meditation, many people are excited about. In today's world, meditation has become more of a trend. Like, oh, it's something fancy that you sit in some nice dark room or very light, dim lights, just close your eyes, you feel good. That's meditation. Or many times people don't even know what type of mantra they are listening to and whether that is actually connecting them to the super soul. So mantra itself has a power. So that's why that knowledge is very important. What mantra to chant, which mantra is for this age of Kali Yuga, and also how to do meditation. So basically, to meditate means to fix the mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. And this is real meditation. But unfortunately, our mind is not trained, so it wanders here and there with so many distractions. So to perform meditation itself is quite difficult. So even when we are chanting and we are chanting, thinking, yes, we are trying to fix our mind on the lotus feet, but at the same time, we are struggling with so many thoughts, so many things comes to mind, and we have to drag our mind in a meditative state so we could chant. So, but we do understand that it's very difficult, so we should not get discouraged, and we should continue, because even Arjuna, we have heard in Bhagavad Gita that Arjuna says that it is more difficult to control the mind than the wind. That many years ago, for a personality like Arjuna, who was such an exalted personality, he is saying that it was difficult for him to even control his mind. So if somebody so qualified like Arjuna can find it so difficult, then of course what to speak about us. So we don't need to get discouraged, but practice makes everything perfect. So this is certainly a difficult time in Kali Yuga, but it can be done. And the best part of Kali Yuga is that we don't need lots of uh, other things to do. Just by chanting Hare Krishna mantra, we can actually reach perfection. And Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that of all the yogis who do different types of meditation, of all the yogis, the one who meditates on me is the best of all. So that's why it's important that what is the goal of your meditation? The meditation is not just stays at the mental level. It has to go beyond that. The goal of meditation should be for us understanding that first we are the soul, and we need to connect ourselves with super soul, and Krishna was the supreme personality of Godhead. Without that goal, the meditation is useless. So he is telling the secret of meditation is to fix the mind always on him. And by regularly hearing and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, we can increase that chance of remembering Krishna. As we see that whoever remember Krishna at the time of death, you will automatically attain him. So people may think that, oh, okay, we can do anything in this life. At the end of time, when I'm on a deathbed, I will just try to remember Krishna. But it is very difficult. If we have not practiced to remember Krishna throughout this life, through our services, through chanting, through bringing Krishna in our day-to-day life, then of course we can't remember Krishna at the end of our life. And Krishna also gives surety that if we are sincere in this life and in our practices, then whether we can remember or we have even the endeavor to remember Krishna at the end of our life, it is Krishna will remember us. So he even gives us that surety. So there's such a wonderful process of Bhakti Yoga. So in this verse, we have seen who should take up this process. In the verse translation, we also see another aspect, which is swadharma. So swadharma is occupational duties of varnashrama dharma. So which indicates the occupational duties of brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, and shudras. So varnashrama means people may think that, oh, brahmana, these might be the olden era's titles, but these are basically the occupational duties. So even in regardless of any era of time, people are categorized into these four classes. Like there will be intellectual people who are doing activities related to intellectual aspects, like teaching and deity worship and all of that. Then people might be doing kshatriyas in the administration world, ruling a country. And then Vaishya could be the merchant or the farmer. Shudras could be the laborers who works for others. But whether we call these by title, people will always be doing one of these four activities. So, however, in this age of Kali, Shudra will be in a position of Brahmanas. One Shudras might be in a position of Brahmanas or Kshatriyas or Vaishyas. The reason is because nothing is connected to spirituality. So even government, the king, they are not really following the like in olden days they used to take guidance of spirituality, and they used to identify that, oh, how to rule the country. So that way somehow they were more spiritually inclined. But nowadays everybody comes into a mixed category. So that's why it's mentioned that in the age of Kali Yuga, it is mainly we are working for others, because that's how this age has been defined, and that's how activities has evolved over the years. So, but the one point to note that even though one gets stuck into these occupational duties and one follows all these, but it is not enough by itself. It must be supported by Bhakti Yoga. So, if one wants to become fearless or progress spiritually, then Bhakti Yoga is enough. So, one must perform Bhakti Yoga. That is the most important or topmost. So I'll explain in Krishna has given also the knowledge of all other yogas, because we are talking about Bhakti Yoga. He has given knowledge of Karma Kanda, Sakam Karma, and then Nishkam Karma, Jnana Karma, Ashtanga Karma, Bhakti Yoga, and all are going towards the same goal. But Bhakti Yoga is topmost, it works like an elevator. So if we see the essence of Bhagavad Gita, then he has given confidential knowledge, more confidential knowledge, and the most confidential knowledge. So we know the confidential knowledge, which is Guhya, that is matter and spirit, that we are the spirit soul. And then we have seen Guhya Tara, that is more confidential. So we know the knowledge of Bhakti, Paramatma is more confidential. And then we have Guhyatama, which is the knowledge of Kevala Bhakti, the knowledge of Krishna, which is most confidential. So, what is one of the glory of Bhakti Yoga is that it is simple. It is very simple to perform, and it is eternal. People don't lose anything. Is their spiritual, like in this life, if we accumulate lots of wealth, if we suppose if we have $1 million in our bank account, in our next life, not necessarily that will be transferred and we will get that $1 million in the next life as well. But in what happens for the spiritual credits, that it follows on from this life to the next life, so nothing is lost. So even if one doesn't practice or doesn't completes the process in this life, there's a higher chance that all these spiritual credits that he owns in the next life takes him forward from there. And of course, it is transformational. So we see the transformation of hearts. We see just by following these simple practices, we can get into the process of we can purify our heart. So these are some of the glories of Bhakti Yoga, and it's universal. Krishna says that anybody could follow it. So these are some of the glories, but in terms of characteristics, this is some of the characteristics I have listed out in the screen, which is it is a king of knowledge, secret of all, purest knowledge, perfection of religion, it's everlasting, and its joy is fully performed. So one thing to note is mention it's everlasting, and it's connecting it to how it is eternal, how it is simple, how it is transformational. But one thing to note that it needs to be joyfully performed. So one should not be. So of course we can start the practice, but if we are not joyfully performing it, it's not coming to the level of Bhakti Yoga or coming to the level of pure Bhakti. It could be mixed Bhakti at that stage. But nothing is wrong or right, because of course we are progressing towards the pure Bhakti, and we can't directly step into pure Bhakti state. So just summarize that some of those points, that it's simple, eternal, and transformational. Krishna, what he says about Bhakti Yoga is that those who worship me, giving up all activities onto me and being devoted to me with deviation, engaged in devotional service and always meditating upon me, having fixed their mind upon, O son of Pratha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. So he's saying, I am the swift deliverer. So Krishna personally delivers the devotees who meditates on his personal feature. So which is such a great thing to have that surety from Krishna himself, that if we are under his shelter, then we have nothing to fear. And we'll share a very wonderful story here. Story of Narada. So I think most of you might already know the story of Narada. He was a Gandharva in his. So it took him 3 lives to come to the level of Narada. So how it was transformational. So he was a Gandharva and he was cursed by a Dasi Putra. He was cursed to become a Dasi Putra because he was misusing the position of Gandharva at that time. And when he went to an assembly of Devtas, everybody was singing the glories of the Lord, Hari, and he sang something else. So he sort of offended that assembly, and he got cursed that, okay, you will become a Dasi Putra because you are not behaving intellectually. So, so then he took a birth as a Dasi Putra, but he got a very good mother who was very spiritually inclined in serving Vaishnavas. So during Chaturmas time, when a lot of exalted Vaishnavas came to the Brahmana school, his mother's duty was to uh, serve the Brahmanas through prasadam and all of that. So that's what she used to do. So they stayed in a Brahmana school. And so, along with his mother, the child also served the Brahmanas. And his duty was to take the prasadam and deliver it to the Brahmanas. So he would do that. Every day he would take the prasadam and deliver it to the Brahmanas. And after they have finished, he would eat their remnants. And after eating the remnants, he would wash their plates as well. So that's how he was doing devotional service. So, and other than he also got the mercy from those Brahmanas of hearing Krishna Katha from them. So by associating with these Vaishnavas, the small boy developed great devotion. And they were all leaving after the Chaturmas, so the boy started missing the association. So that is the greatness of associating with pure devotees, that we get attached to their association. So then he said, "Oh, you all are going. What will I do alone? I'm going to miss your association." So the devotees initiated the boy and he gave him a mantra to continue his devotional service. And then he chanted and instructed. He followed that instruction. He chanted the holy name. He and he was slowly, fully cleansed. He went to the forest to focus on that. On the names of Lord Vishnu and meditated there. Slowly he got all his impurities got cleansed, and then he had the darshan of the Lord. So all his heart became cleansed, and he was shocked and wanted to. He was shocked to see the development in him, and one day he was just meditating and meditating, and he saw Lord. He saw Lord. He got a glimpse of Lord, and then Lord vanished. And he became very, very shocked that, oh, where is Lord? Where is Lord? I can't see him again. And then he wanted to do it again and get to see him, but then he couldn't. And then the Akashwani came that, oh, you can't see me in this life. So he needs to be fully cleansed of his all material contamination before one can approach me. But of course, he was cleansed. But why did Lord did that to him? To intensify his devotion. So sometimes in separation, it intensifies our devotion. It's just like a child. If we give them something and we take it away, something that you don't have, you crave for it more and more. So it's like that. So he wanted to. It intensified his devotion so much that his at the end of the life he directly got a transcendental body of Narada. And then by the grace of Vishnu, we all know that Narad Muni is the great Acharya and the Guru of so many great personalities. So this teaches that how Bhakti Yoga works. And there are special things in the pastime which helps to glorify the Bhakti Yoga. So I would like to ask that question to all of you, that what part of Bhakti Yoga that we are practicing, that Narad Muni is showing, that in this pastime we have seen that he has practiced those and he has perfected his life through the practice of Bhakti Yoga in this story.
Sadhana Bhakti.
Sadhana Bhakti. Yes, Madhuri, that's correct. So how he was doing sadhana bhakti?
He is serving the sadhus with giving the prasad, washing the plates. Yeah.
Yeah. And any other points anybody else would like to mention?
Rajesh, he was trying to do Biprolombo devotional service. That means when he didn't found the Lord, has just told him to meditate in absence that he will not never find the Lord in his life. He was always he was always thinking of that position. So in that way, he also tried Bhakti Yoga also.
Yes, yes, correct. He was meditating and offered prasad. What else we also do in Krishna conscious process that is similar to this pastime?
Chanting.
Yes, that's correct.
Harinam. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll mention I'll summarize it. Thank you, Sitanand Mataji and Abhachan Prabhu for mentioning it. The association of devotees. So he associated with devotees, and that has actually raised him to quite a highest level of bhakti yoga. He chanted, which Mataji has mentioned. The chanting is quite important. He ate the remnants of pure devotees. So that is also very purifying. And then, of course, he was rendering Vaishnava Seva. So as he gave prasadam to devotees and washed their plates. And he was determined. He was, Avichan Prabhu has mentioned that he was doing Vipra Lamba devotion. So he was determined to, he had a goal in mind. He was determined to reach the Lord. So he had focused determination to how to practice and stay connected. So all of that is important, and we can learn that we are also can easily follow that. So like this was many years ago in but in Kali Yuga, we may feel that how we can follow this bhakti yoga, but we are already following it. But it's just that with that right mood and right sincerity, we can intensify it. So like we are doing our sadhana bhakti. So if one does sadhana bhakti seriously, with sincerity, we are eating remnants of Krishna Prasad and wants to associate with advanced devotees and devotees who wants to grow in spiritually more and more. Suppose if somebody gets sick, these are very simple things people don't do, or they do, they must be doing it. That let's just focus on our life. But if we also focus on serving devotees, then we could, if somebody is hospitalized, just taking prasad for them itself is a devotional service. It is not just relationship aspect, but it is also a devotional service because we are serving that Vaishnava. So in that serving mood, if we are going, then that becomes devotional service. If we are helping anybody with that attitude that we are doing a service to bring someone closer to Krishna, then that becomes devotional service and Vaishnava Seva. And lots of sadhus and senior Vaishnava comes where we get opportunity to serve them. So, and when people do home programs, they are serving devotees by cooking for so many people and providing their home. So there is lots of ways actually devotees are doing devotional service. So which is quite great, and we may think that all these things might be very simple things, but it is giving lots of credits to someone to grow spiritually. And it's all about consciousness because advancement in Krishna consciousness is dependent on the attitude of the practitioner. So, so bhakti yoga can become a fast track process if one just whatever we follow with the right goal in our mind, that why we want to do it, and what is the reason behind us to do this. And once our reasoning, we do proper introspection, and that reasoning is more linked to serving Krishna, then we are at the right track. So I'll just like to end there. Thank you, everyone. If anybody would like to make any comments, or if I've said something wrong, please correct me. Uh, and if anyone has any questions or anything, please share it.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you very much for the very nice class today. And you have in the beginning you have told about the need for Bhakti Yoga, why it is needed, and you have told for whom it is needed. Thank you for that. And the first thing is that you mentioned about is that one uh, who is serious about purification of his existence needs Bhakti Yoga, because one because it is the process to see the Lord from within. But in the nowadays, a lot of people, a glamorous side of the so-called yoga system is going on elsewhere, and where they do not really, as Prabhupada has told in the purport, that they do not know the real purpose of Bhakti Yoga, or yoga in other words, because yoga means to connect to the Lord. We have a we have an eternal relationship with the Lord, and we have to connect with the Lord by through our service, and by our service we can connect to the Lord, and in this way we can purify our existence, and ultimately can see and realize that the Lord is within us. And when we realize it by our devotional service, we can connect to him, and even at an advanced stage we can see him face to face. And the purpose is to serve him ultimately by going with in his abode, or Golok Vrindavan. That is our goal. But in the present day the things are different. In the name of yoga is going on, and you have also very nicely pointed out what are the requirements of the Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga means there are 9 processes in all, but we have to, any one of them is enough to purify our existence. And finally, we can see the Lord, even with one of the process. But different varieties are there, because one may be bored with a particular one, so all these are available. But ultimately, we have to reach the goal. That is by our devotional service we should reach the God and try to serve him in the goal of Vrindavan. That should be our goal, and each individual should try to pursue it, whatever whatever borno we have, that is whatever occupational duty we have, because ultimately by using the purpose of Varnashram is to reach the God, as you have pointed out, the discussion between Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because whatever ashram or borno we have, it is the ultimate goal is to reach the Lord. And in fact, in Bhagavad Gita 1845, it is clearly stated that Sheshe karmani obhirataha samsiddhing labate nara sakarma sakarma nirataha siddhing yatha bindoti tatsrino. That means he is telling that by any of their activities, ultimately we can reach the Lord. But so whatever born we have, that is exterior. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told it is external. But ultimate goal is to reach the Lord. So you have pointed out a very nice way how we can, different steps are there for the Bhakti Yoga, and one of serving the Lord. And it is mentioned by Narottam Das Tagore, I think he has told that Chariya Vaishnav Seva Uddhar Keva. That means without serving the Vaishnavas, no one can reach, no one can become a real devotee. So we should, in our devotional service, it is a very important part that we should serve the Vaishnavas, and in whatever way it is possible for us, we should do it. And it should not be fixed for a particular person, depending on our circumstances, but we should reach the goal ultimately by doing all the various process prescribed in the Shastra, and also through the Vaishnavas who are teaching us every moment. And we should reach them. We should reach the ultimate goal by any of the processes or all of the processes, whatever is convenient to us. And that is our goal. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for such a nice summary.
Hare Krishna Mataji, very nice class. Just
Thank
I was
you.
meditating about the glories of Bhakti Yoga, and today's Srila Prabhupada's purport, today's Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrita, how it is, connected, and that Bauris people,
Yes.
how they are doing, association with the devotees with Srila Prabhupada, and how they are taking prasad, and how they are, meditating with the with chanting. So, and all are now sadhus, isn't it?
Yes.
So how means beautiful is the bhakti yoga that I was thinking about it, how nicely, it's given up. And also I found, when we are going through the all our Bhagavatam slokas, it's so interrelated with that Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. Hmm.
Yes.
Nice, yes, the characteristics of pure bhakti. And also, how is the Krishna is the swift deliverer. Also, I am meditating with that Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. Krishna will deliver surely. Thank you all, connecting and all again, because we read already the nectar of devotion, but still, we forget, and these are all reminder to know. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
So as it appears there is no other person to make any comment, so we can conclude the class. You can conclude the class now. Thank you very much for the nice class. Vancha
कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। हार ग्रेस अनंगलता देवी दासी माता जी की जय। श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ऑल ग्लोरीज टू assembled devotees. हरे कृष्णा।